This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar, principal second violin and artistic administrator, Merwin Sue. We also have the TSO's marketing director, Felicia Canny, in the house, and on the phone, we have music director, Elaine Trudell. Welcome, everybody.
Hello.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. It is so good to be 6 feet away from everybody.
Yes.
You all look so much smaller.
We are practicing social distancing here in the studio. That is, of course, because of COVID-19, which is causing all kinds of restrictions, something new happening every day, basically, as far as that goes. So we're kind of in a little bit of an unusual situation here because the symphony is operating under these restrictions, and some of the concerts have had to be canceled. But the good news is that the symphony remains a vital force here in the area. And, of course, that was evidenced through the live streaming concert that you gave this past Friday evening. So we're going to spend a half hour talking about this, how it impacts the arts and how it impacts people's lives here in Northwest Ohio. And, you know, in some ways, this brings out the advantages, the strengths of the performing arts and classical music in general. And I know, Zach, you want to speak to that, but before we get there, let's go back and recap a little bit and talk about what happened, what led up to the streaming concert that you did this past Friday. For people who don't know, we should tell them what the event was. You want to go ahead and tell us?
Sure. So last Tuesday, we began rehearsals for a wonderful program called Love Songs. It was a piece by Lily Boulanger, a piece by Gustav Mahler, whoever he is, and then
just a little piece by
just
Gustav
a little
Mahler.
piece by Gustav Mahler, and then the Fourth Symphony of Johannes Brahms. And we were so excited to prepare this program, and rehearsals were really going wonderfully well. And every single day, we were just getting a little bit more information from our governments, from our health departments, about the types of restrictions that were going to be handed down. And we came to the conclusion that we would not be able to make the performance happen in front of the peristyle audience, which was a huge blow. I think it's something that, you know, when you're presenting a program that you believe in and with an amazing conductor and an amazing guest artist, you want to be able to share that. And we were really kind of distressed at the possibility that we wouldn't be able to share that. So we then approached some partners to see how we would be able to make this possible, that we could, to the best of our ability, share it with as many people as possible.
Yeah. And you want to take over from there, Zach?
Well, I just remember sending an email to Marlon Kaiser, and I said, what would it have to take? I don't know if it's even possible, but if it were possible, what would it take to live stream our concert from the peristyle? And I think that email went out on Monday, and just 4 days later, we're standing there at the peristyle making our first ever live stream happen. It's something that Marlon and I have always talked about, but it really ended up coming down to this wonderful gift from the musicians of the orchestra to the community to allow us to live stream this performance. These are things that we would want to do, but there are always a lot of hoops that we have to jump through, and usually more hoops than we could jump through in a matter of days. But the orchestra said, go for it. We want this to be a gift to the community and a gift to the world. And I couldn't be more happy and thankful to the musicians and also to WGTE for helping to facilitate that.
Yeah, Marlon Kaiser, we should mention, is the CEO of WGTE. For folks who don't know, he's my boss, so it was good that it all worked out.
Yeah, it did.
You know? Yeah. And I was certainly pleased to be able to take part and do some emceeing for the event.
And you looked rather dashing in a fantastic jacket.
Thank you.
I've heard a lot about this jacket.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I think we gave you 24 hours notice, right?
Yeah. So, and I did a lot of shopping that day. But if anybody wants to look there is a video of the live stream where you can look at my jacket all that you want. listen to a little piece by Mahler and some Lily Boulanger, as well as some trifle by Johannes Brahms as well.
I had a trifle. I had a friend, Win Hall, make fun of me on Facebook because there was a picture of you, Alain, and I talking at intermission, and
you guys were in like all dressed up.
Well, he was in Alain. You were in tails. I was wearing a suit and tie, and you were wearing your fashionable purple coat.
Yeah, my Hugh Hefner inspired dinner coat.
And depending on the angle you were standing at, it changes color. Yeah. So my friend Wynn accused us of trying to be GQ ad in the midst of a corona outbreak.
And you denied this or no?
Honestly, I said that we briefly considered sequin leisure suits, but we thought that might be too informal.
I used to actually have one of those, but we won't talk about that. We'll save that for another time.
There has got to be a soundboard cue that works well with this. Come on,
we've got little Vegas there. We've got to put the website out there though. It's available on your website right now.
It's on ToledoSymphony.com on the front of that, and if you go to YouTube and search for Toledo Symphony live stream, it will also take you to that. It's a video file, a little over 2 hours in duration, but the music doesn't begin until about 32 minutes and 40 seconds, not to be specific, but if you zoom out to 32:40, you'll be right at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, and you can look at my jacket at the beginning because I come on at the top too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we start with our best. We lead well.
Yes. Absolutely. I have to agree with you on that. Alain, let's hear a little bit from you because when we did that live stream, I asked you at intermission, what was it like to conduct to an empty hall? And you were like, well, I have experience doing that. Tell us about that experience.
Well, I used to conduct the Radio Symphony in Vancouver, the CBC Radio Orchestra, and we did some broadcasts. Of course, a lot of them were live, but some of them were at different times because, you have to cover 4 time zones or 5 time zones, and, like in the U.S. And it was in Vancouver, so sometimes we'd have a concert at, we'd start recording at 7 in the morning, or we had dress at 7 and then play either radio or sometimes television, not so often, but sometimes. And then this orchestra, when the government decided that they were closing the orchestra, we continued for a little while as an orchestra called the National Broadcast Orchestra. And that was one of the first orchestra that did live streaming. And that was complicated because nobody was doing it then. That's more than 10, 12 years ago. That's a long time ago, and that's 10 years ago. And that was quite an adventure. And we would stream from the Chance Center in Vancouver, but also try to do it on tour. It was quite a learning experience. It was very interesting.
Well, you were way ahead of the curve then, streaming 10 years ago, huh?
Yeah, well, it wasn't
show
easy
off.
Because, but no, it's just, you say that necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened.
Yeah. Is there any kind of adjustment you have to make on the podium as a musician and working with the musicians when you're not getting the feedback from a live audience? Or I guess like if you go and make recordings, which you have done, you don't have a live audience there when you're doing it. So is it similar to that?
Exactly. It's like making an audio recording. The big challenge in that is to have a performance it's kind of a little bit easier to play everything really to focus on being together or just like you would in a rehearsal. But that's the big danger. That's the biggest danger also, because then it becomes only that. It's a mise en place. It just means, you put it together and it doesn't mean anything. So that's the big, what I told the musicians before we played was what I think also before I go on stage for the events like that and before recordings is that you have to be that much more expressive in your playing because it travels directly from you to only one person. So because there's one or a family, anybody who's watching their television or they're watching their computer or they're listening to the radio, basically they don't have the emotional and involvement of sitting and being part of the concert. That you're part, you're not just a witness to a concert, you're part of a concert, part of the energy. So we have to expand the musical like hand, if you want, even further, and just go and get your, bring more emotion in different household of the people, and that's something that you have to play with more intensity, actually.
Yeah, and I noticed that from the Toledo Symphony in that performance because I was in the hall, obviously, and I have to say, without all the audience members, physically there to kind of soak up the sound a little bit, which is what happens in a live performance. The music just reverberated in such a way that you rarely hear, except maybe like in a rehearsal or something like that. Mm-hmm. But everybody was at the top of their game. They played so well. Sydney Outlaw sang so well. It was almost as if they were more motivated to make this like the best performance of their lives, even when there wasn't an audience there in the hall. Merwin, you played in the orchestra, obviously. Tell us about your experience.
I think that it was actually really great that we were in full formal. I felt that made a big difference, to just be in tails and in concert black, but playing to an empty hall. That was that was unique in my experience, to have that combination of being in kind of my battle gear, but not having the audience there, and then everything about it felt special, just because of the introductions that you were doing, Brad, in real time. Mm-hmm. It felt very much like kind of a once in a lifetime sort of an occurrence. And I think people remarked about how they were so much more nervous because it felt like it was so unusual and so different. And
the musicians on stage were nervous.
Yeah. I think it felt heightened. The sense of occasion felt heightened, and I think that, it was so meaningful to be able to spend 2 hours or so and not think about the news and to really lose yourself in something like this.
Mm-hmm. You okay there, Elaine? It sounds like your phone is jumbling a little bit. Is that just
sorry about that?
Is that just a connection?
No, I just got a text. You know what we're doing right now? And I know we're doing the radio show, but at the same time, all the brass players of the Toledo Symphony are putting together a performance that we're all going to record each of our parts via YouTube or via our phones. We're going to play some Gabrielli for the public.
Oh, it's like a virtual brass choir.
Sorry about the sound. That's what came in on my telephone. It's Garth, our principal trombone, saying, which part do you want to play, Alain? So I'm going to play with them.
You were like trombone.
So all of us, we're all going to play something together, but not together. Yeah. But so our tuba player is taking the lead on that, Dave, and he's actually he wrote a click track for everybody, and we're just gonna do all of this, and we'll be ready. You'll see it.
Okay, well, where does this fit in? See,
I don't think it's in the urtext.
It's not by Gabrielli.
Well, you heard it here first. Lots of things that are developing.
Breaking news. Don't you have a breaking news sound effect?
I used to, but Tony Geftes left and he took it with him. So
Geftes.
Now, Felicia, I want to touch on your experience a little bit because you were watching through the stream itself, right? You saw this happening live. What were your impressions?
Well, I guess that week was a pretty emotional week in general. I don't know how it felt in the office, but I was working from home the entire week and lots of phone calls with everybody on a daily basis. And every day we were just pushing forward. And I think the sense of occasion that you mentioned, Merwin, that's completely true. I was looking forward to the live stream so much by the end of the week, and holding my breath for everybody who had to speak that night and performing on stage, because I'm such a super fan. I just wanted everything to go well. Yeah. And it did. It was great. And at home when I was watching and texting with people who were there at the same time,
you texted me, not Merwin, because he had to play.
Yes. Hey, Merwin, why aren't you
where was my
back?
text?
Otherwise, he'd be just like Elaine in the middle of a very important event. So like, oh, here, let me check my text and see what's going on.
No.
Right?
Well, actually, it was Candy Crush, but it's okay.
Okay, we'll let you continue, Felicia. It sounds like you were just as nervous as all those musicians on the stage.
Yeah, I just wanted everything to go well and be perfect, and to make sure that there weren't any blips in the live stream, and the emotion that you talked about on stage, and people kind of heightened awareness of what was happening at that moment. It was a historic moment. I felt that through the screen. Yeah. And I wasn't watching it on my TV. I could have hooked it up, I guess, but I didn't. And it was just on my laptop, and everything just really translated across the screen. And I think I teared up at times because it was overwhelming what we were making happen at that moment.
We also have to give a shout out, I should say, to Todd Brady.
I was just going to say,
Todd.
Todd.
Goodness, yes, Todd.
He's done, your recordings for a long, long time, but he really rose to the occasion on such short notice.
And it deserves comment because, Todd is our sound engineer, and he's used to taking our performances and our archival recordings and mastering them. And that's usually a technique. It's an art. It's a science. And it's something that people are able to do after the performance. Mm-hmm. But Todd had to make his best guesses based on all of his time spent with our performances as to what the live sound should be, because he couldn't master on the fly. So he set everything in motion, and I just thought the orchestra sounded great. Good. I was in the peristyle. Felicia was texting me about how great it sounded, and as soon as I got home, I didn't even take off my jacket. I pulled it up on the TV in our family room and started listening to it because I wanted to hear it.
Wait, so you watched it twice?
No.
Back?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I skipped through a couple different parts.
Let me ask you, though, what did you think of my jacket?
Oh, God, Brad.
I have to, I'll be honest. It looked amazing.
Okay.
Your jacket sounded great.
You got a jacket for radio.
Excellent.
It was a little loud.
Just like me, occasionally.
Well, I did want to actually give kind of, props to pretty much everybody on our administrative staff, but, the marketing department contacted every single ticket holder.
Well, it was definitely a group effort.
But to be able to, to make sure that they had that opportunity and knew about it. And it was all over social media, and just to be able to, and then all of the screenshots that were provided, it made it just feel like something that was not its maiden voyage. It seemed so well done and with only a couple of days really to pull it off. It was insane.
Well, Zach, you're uniquely positioned to answer this question. I mean, do you think it was successful? Was it everything you hoped it would be?
Well, it depends how you measure success. If we think about this as a typical concert, what we had expected at the beginning of last week, we would have said that, full capacity for the Peristyle is, a little over 3,000 people if you do it 2 nights, and that's what we planned to do. So when you walk into a week and you're expecting to have up to that many people in a Peristyle, and through the course of the week and through events that are completely out of your control, we had to take a drastic step of actually canceling a performance. We don't do that. We're in the business of the show must go on. So in some ways, having to make those adjustments felt like, I don't want to say failure, but it felt like we weren't succeeding.
It's the opposite of what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And so then having to find another way to do this, we thought that we should live stream the concert as an alternative to those who didn't feel comfortable coming, because we were hearing all these stories about social distancing and large group events, but nothing had been advised to be canceled at that point. So the initial idea was to do this as an alternative viewing opportunity. And then as the week went on, we had to make this the viewing opportunity. So in some ways, that also felt like the opposite of success, is that we couldn't even have people in the house. Once we thought about it, though, and I really loved this kind of turning point in the week with our team, we started to see this as a moment of community value where we could offer this to a much larger audience than we could ever have fit in the Peristyle over 2 nights. And indeed, if you look at the YouTube statistics, we've already achieved that. If you think about what the community needs at a time when not just the symphony, but everybody is making drastic changes, this is shocking. This is everything we're doing right now is shocking. And in that way, we're all kind of going through our own processing of that and a little bit of PTSD maybe. And we aren't giving ourselves a chance to realize how strange these times are and how quickly things are changing. So when we have the opportunity to play beautiful music and go into people's houses at such a vulnerable time and do something so artistic, that feels like a greater success than we could have ever imagined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, on balance, it was extremely successful given the circumstances you were operating under. I just want to mention a couple of things that really struck me about looking at that YouTube archive. There's so many comments on there, and I see it on Facebook also of people saying, "Oh, I'm watching from different places."
A hotel in Omaha.
Yeah, there's no way they could ever see a symphony concert, if they're not here physically, but they were able to see the stream. And one other thing I noticed is people talking about getting their kids to watch. I mean, right now with all the school closings, parents are looking for ways to engage their kids that are not, just playing games on their screens all the time.
Right.
Provided you have to use a screen to access this. But it's a really fantastic experience, I think, for kids to be able to be in a concert hall in the comfort of their own living room,
right,
and enjoy,
That's
enjoy
what my
a
daughter
program
did.
like this.
I heard kids, I heard popcorn, and I heard wine. A lot of people cozied up with a glass of wine. Okay, let's admit it. Everyone had a bottle. But this really starts to speak to what I think I would love for our vision to be going forward, is that we're going to have more weeks of uncertainty, and we're going to have more weeks of scary headlines, disturbing headlines. If we as an arts organization can use this as a moment to engage with the community, maybe not in our traditional way, but to offer some peace and some solace and a respite from all of that cacophony that we're starting to really overload on. If you open up your Facebook feed, it's all you see. Then I think we have then, going back to that sense of success, we have really succeeded in using our art form to reassure and maybe distract people in a way that only music and movement can from the monotony.
Well, I want to talk more about how music can be a solace in times of trouble and how it applies specifically to what's going on today and with all the technology that we have at hand. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, I want to introduce my quiz for this show. Now, when we first started talking about this, we were like, well, we have to do a coronavirus show. And I thought, quiz. What can I do for a quiz, right?
This is so wrong.
So I came up with...
I hope it's a quiz about Corona beer.
No.
I would fail.
No. This is a quiz about coronavirus. We're going to see how close you've been paying attention to all the news recently.
This is a straight quiz? This is not a comical quiz?
No. This
Ripped
is
from the headlines.
A straight quiz about coronavirus. So the idea is that we go in the process of doing this quiz, we hopefully disseminate some proper information to folks about it. And most people will probably know the answers to these already. I assume you guys will probably get the answer. Just for the sake of tradition, I'm going to bring up a little music here. This is... was that you, Merwin?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
this
suddenly
is making my heart
on the
skip
edge
a
of my...
beat.
Yeah,
on the
I
edge of my
mean,
seat.
it's no streaming Mahler, but it's as close as I can get. Okay, here we go. Number 1. Which of these is not usually an early symptom of COVID-19 infection? Is it sneezing, is it fever, or is it dry cough?
Sneezing.
It's sneezing.
4 for 4, everybody.
Wow, you guys, you have to say jinx after that, right?
Then no
That's
one
what
can
my-
speak.
No one can
That's
talk.
what my
My kids do that, and then Zach wins. Zach and Elaine, have one up.
We have a
Okay.
chance. Yeah.
Question number 2. How early can symptoms appear after initial exposure? Is it 2 to 14 days, 7 to 14 days, or 14 days or longer?
2 to 4.
2 to 14 days.
Wow, Elaine got that one. Excellent. Which of these does the Centers for Disease Control recommend for avoiding infection? Remember, these are recommendations from the CDC. To help avoid infection, should you wear a face mask in public? Should you wash your hands frequently?
Wash your hands.
Should you stay 6 feet away from each other?
All of the above.
All of the above.
Or should you disinfect frequently, touch surfaces often? You say all of the above?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Oh.
They actually do not recommend wearing a face mask
I
in
thought that was
public
tricky.
unless you are already sick. Okay.
So is it B, C, and D?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you don't want
never
BCD,
done
which are
this.
no, those are my initials, just out of order. That's my middle name. My middle name starts with a D.
What's your middle name?
No guesses. No.
Douglas?
David.
If you
Dwight.
get it, I'll tell
Dwight.
you, but you're not getting it.
Dewey.
Okay. Here's the next one.
Donald.
Where
Sorry. Sorry.
Dreyfus.
where does I'm changing it to Dreyfus, though. I like that.
Detroit.
Detroit.
Detroit. I like it.
Detroit. That's two names. Detroit.
Brad.
Okay.
Dietrich.
Dietrich. Okay, where does the coronavirus get its name? Is it because it is the so-called king of viruses? Corona means crown in Latin. Is it from the spiky projections which cover the virus's
Yes.
surface?
Yes.
Oh, let me
B.
finish here.
But I feel like I need to beat Zach and Merwin and Elaine.
Or this one is for Zach. Is it because the virus's discoverers named it for the beverage they were drinking at the time? What's your answer?
I'm going to say B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spiky projections.
Spiky projectiles.
Yeah.
Should make it look like
Yeah.
a sun's corona, right? Okay, coronaviruses have been studied in humans since the 1960s. Which of these illnesses is
Flu.
also spread
Flu.
by the coronavirus?
It's flu.
It's not.
Is it influenza? Is it
Yes.
malaria? Or is it the common cold?
It's
Common
influenza.
cold. Common
Only one.
cold.
Influenza.
Merwin gets it.
No, it's influenza.
Yeah.
Influenza
No,
is a
they're
different
not the same.
virus.
It's a different virus.
It's an influenza virus, and malaria is caused by a parasite. Common cold is a
I saw that movie.
coronavirus. Yeah.
Really?
Okay. Here's
So that means I
another.
lost.
So far, yeah.
Wait,
I'm not
if
keeping
I lose,
track.
do I get the virus?
Yeah. No. This is something that you don't want to
It's horrible.
get. Right? You don't want to. You don't want to
This
win
is a
this
high
quiz.
stakes game.
Yeah.
Wait, there are stakes? I'm excited now.
Steaks and wine from
Penalty
earlier,
spray by disinfectant.
and Lysol with every meal.
And I get the trombone thing.
Okay, we got to hurry up. We're just about out of time. All right, here's the last one. We all know about singing "Happy Birthday" to yourself twice while washing your hands for 20 seconds. Which of these classical excerpts is also exactly 20 seconds long? Is it the first 20 measures of Eine kleine Nachtmusik, the first 20 measures of Flight of the Bumblebee, the first 20 measures of Mahler's Symphony No. 3, or could it be the entirety of John Cage's 4 minutes and 33 seconds, number 2?
Well,
A.
okay, A. It has to be A.
A is close, but it's generally 20 to 30 seconds too long.
Well, it depends on the
then.
tempo
Yeah, it
marking.
depends on the
B
T.
is a little fast, about
Right.
5 seconds short. The only one that you can absolutely guarantee will be 20 seconds long
Is Mahler?
Did you
No,
try
it's the
this?
Cage.
is
It's the first
the
20
John
seconds.
Cage.
The first
Notice
20
I said 4 minutes 33 seconds, number 2.
Oh.
The only directions
Oh.
involve, it says, in a situation provided with maximum amplification, perform a disciplined action. So you can wash your hands for 20 seconds as long as you put a microphone on it, and you'd be performing the piece.
You just went down the nerd hole in a big way.
Yeah, I did. That's kind of, I don't know if that's the
applaud
kind of
yourself.
thing.
I'm taking 4 points away from you, Brad.
I don't think we can convince the American public to do that on a daily basis. But,
My favorite meme I've seen so far is a pair of hands that look like they've been washed for about 7 hours. But it says, instead of happy birthday, this man chose to wash his hands and sing the entire Mahler symphony cycle. So, yeah.
nice timing with the music. Okay, well, we're going to have to wrap it up. We've had a chance to talk a little bit about, this experience and what it's done. We haven't really talked about what's going on in the future. Of course, as things progress, we may have to repurpose some of these Symphony Lab discussions towards what we've been talking about today and keep the discussion going. So hopefully down the road, we'll have some more developments to share with folks. But you can always check the website at ToledoSymphony.com and find out exactly what's going on day to day with the symphony. If there's anything new, they'll certainly tell you about it there. Okay, before we go, Elaine, while we've got you on the phone, I'm going to turn over the last word to you. Is there anything that you want to say to all of the folks out there who are fans of the symphony?
Well, yeah, thank you, Brad. On behalf of course, our entire team, our wonderful musicians, our staff, and myself, I just want to say a really big thank you to everybody out there who tuned in and who keep supporting us during these uncertain times. We try to be there for you as much as we can. We're going to have some more surprises coming up to try to put a little bit of sunshine in your lives. But we're really grateful to have you as public and as fans.
Excellent. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony, with generous support from the Rita Barber Kern Foundation. You can download episodes of our show as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Merwin Siu, Felicia Canny, and Alain Trudel. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.